I sat alone in my office at Pacific Regional Medical Center, staring at the text message on my phone. The light from my 3 computer screens filled the room, but I couldn't stop looking at the words on my display. Don't come to Christmas Eve dinner. Marcus's fiance is a pediatric surgeon. Everyone will be celebrating her. It will be awkward having you there when people are congratulating a real doctor. I read the message twice. It shouldn't have hurt anymore. But it did. I was the chief medical officer of one of the largest level 1 trauma hospitals in the region. The hospital had 847 beds, and thousands of doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers reported through the system I managed. Over the last 7 years, I had helped turn around 3 struggling hospitals. 6 months earlier, Forbes Healthcare had named me one of its 40 under 40 healthcare innovators. My assistant proudly displayed the framed magazine article outside my office because I felt uncomfortable hanging it on my own wall. Yet to my father, I still wasn't a real doctor. I replied with only 2 words. I understand. A gentle knock interrupted my thoughts. My assistant, Rebecca, stepped inside. Dr. Thornton, the board needs your final recommendations for the pediatric surgery expansion before January 2nd. Also, the last interviews for head of pediatric surgery are scheduled for December 26th. There are 3 candidates, she added. Send me their files, I said. I'll review everything tonight. As she left, I turned back to my computer screens filled with patient outcome reports, hospital performance data, and staffing updates. What my family never understood was that I hadn't stopped being a doctor. I had become the person who decided which doctors would work at one of the most respected medical centers on the West Coast. Growing up, I always lived in my older brother Marcus's shadow. Marcus was confident, athletic, and popular. He was captain of teams, president of clubs, and everyone loved him. I was the quiet one. While everyone else spent Friday nights at football games, I was in the library with a stack of books. Dad worked in pharmaceutical sales and believed success came from confidence and charm. Marcus had both. I didn't. Whenever relatives visited, Mom would smile politely and say, Emma studies all the time. She gets excellent grades. Before she could say anything else, Dad would proudly interrupt. But Marcus just got offers from 3 Division I colleges on full athletic scholarships. That was the achievement everyone celebrated. When I was accepted into Johns Hopkins' highly competitive medical program, Dad barely looked away from his tablet. That's nice, he said. Then he turned to Marcus. Tell everyone about the state championship. Medical school was one of the hardest periods of my life. I worked overnight emergency room shifts just to pay my bills while studying during the day. Marcus never had to worry about money. Our parents paid nearly all of his college expenses. When I asked why they couldn't help me too, Dad shrugged. Marcus needs to focus on football, not a job. By graduation, I owed nearly $340,000 in student loans. Marcus graduated debt-free with a marketing degree and immediately joined one of Dad's friends' companies. His starting salary was about $62,000 a year. Dad posted on Facebook about how proud he was of both of us. There were 7 photos of Marcus. Mine was a blurry picture at the end. Later, I chose hospital leadership instead of practicing full-time medicine. Dad couldn't understand my decision. So you're not treating patients anymore? No, I explained. I improve the systems that help thousands of patients receive better care. He laughed. So, you're basically pushing paperwork. No matter how many times I explained, he never understood. Marcus dated successful women, a lawyer, then a teacher, then an architect. Each new relationship became the center of every family dinner. Someone would eventually remember I was there. So, how's the hospital job? Good, I would answer. Then the conversation would return to Marcus. At 29, I became Director of Clinical Operations at Seattle Memorial Hospital. Dad asked, "Does that mean you're finally seeing patients again?" At 32, I accepted the position of Chief Medical Officer at Pacific Regional Medical Center, making me one of the youngest hospital executives in the country. Dad simply nodded. "That's nice. Marcus just got promoted to Senior Account Manager." After that, I stopped sharing my achievements. There didn't seem to be any point. I skipped more family dinners. No one seemed to notice. I bought a beautiful 4-bedroom home overlooking the water. My parents never visited. They never even asked where I lived. Work became my focus. Every day brought new challenges, improving patient care, rebuilding departments, negotiating with insurance companies, and creating better systems for doctors and nurses. I wasn't holding the scalpel anymore. But my decisions saved lives every single day. My family never saw that. To them, I was simply Emma. The administrator. The office worker. The daughter who wasn't a real doctor. What they never realized was how much I had accomplished. When I joined Pacific Regional 3 years earlier, the hospital was close to collapse. Patient satisfaction was among the worst in the state. Death rates were rising. The hospital was losing $147 million every year. The previous chief medical officer had been dismissed, and the board was considering selling the hospital to a large healthcare corporation. During my interview, the board chair asked me one question. "Can you save this hospital?" Instead of giving a simple answer, I presented a detailed 47-slide plan explaining exactly how I would do it. They hired me the very next day. Within 6 months, I reorganized every clinical department. I dismissed 12 physicians whose performance consistently failed to meet patient care standards. I recruited leading specialists from across the country. New evidence-based treatment protocols reduced hospital-acquired infections by 64%. I renegotiated insurance contracts that brought in millions of dollars in additional revenue. Within 18 months, the hospital was making a profit again. Within 2 years, it became the highest-rated hospital in the region. The board rewarded me with a $340,000 performance bonus. I used it to completely pay off my medical school loans. Later, they granted me stock options worth more than $1.2 million. My financial advisor helped me build a strong investment portfolio. My annual salary increased to $485,000, plus bonuses. Last year, my total compensation reached $627,000. But the money wasn't what mattered most. Influence was. I approved the hiring of top doctors. I decided which departments received funding and which programs expanded. Insurance executives requested meetings with me. Pharmaceutical companies invited me to advisory panels. Hospitals across the country tried to recruit me with generous offers, but I chose to stay. I served on national medical boards, spoke at healthcare conferences, and consulted for major hospital systems, earning over $15,000 a day for specialized projects. Across the healthcare industry, people respected Dr. Emma Thornton. They knew my work. They valued my opinion. But whenever I sat at my family's dinner table, I was still just Emma. The administrator. The daughter who, in my father's eyes, would never be a real doctor. Marcus brought his girlfriend, Dr. Alexandria Burke, home for Thanksgiving. Before dinner, Mom called me with excitement. "You'll love her," she said. "She's a board-certified pediatric surgeon at Children's Medical Center. Your father is so impressed." I arrived carrying a bottle of wine and a homemade apple pie. The moment I stepped inside, I could hear laughter coming from the living room. Alexandria was sitting in the center of the conversation, wearing an elegant dress and speaking confidently about her work. She described difficult surgeries with excitement while my parents listened as if every word was fascinating. As soon as Mom saw me, she smiled. "Emma, come meet Marcus's girlfriend. This is Dr. Alexandria Burke. She's a pediatric surgeon." "It's nice to meet you," I said, offering my hand. She gave me a quick handshake and a polite smile before turning back to my father. "As I was saying," she continued, "minimally invasive surgery has completely changed the way we treat children with appendicitis." Mom looked toward me. "Emma works at a hospital too," she said. "She's in administration." "Oh," Alexandria replied with a small smile. "That's wonderful. Hospitals need people behind the scenes to keep everything running." Dad laughed. "Emma has never been the hands-on type. Marcus got all the social skills in the family." Everyone chuckled. I quietly took my seat. During dinner, Alexandria shared story after story about challenging operations and difficult cases. She was clearly an excellent surgeon. But every few minutes she added comments like, "Those of us who work directly with patients understand that pressure," or, "Clinical medicine is very different." Her words were polite, but the meaning was obvious. She didn't think my career measured up. After dinner, I went into the kitchen to refill my glass of water. I stopped when I heard Marcus and Alexandria talking. "Your sister seems kind," Alexandria said. Marcus laughed softly. "Emma has always been different. She keeps to herself." He paused before adding, "Dad thinks she wasted her medical degree by moving into hospital management." Alexandria sighed. "I guess every profession has its place. Not everyone enjoys taking care of patients." Her voice wasn't cruel. It was worse. It was full of pity. I quietly walked back to the living room, picked up my coat, and told everyone I had an early meeting the next morning. No one asked me to stay. 3 weeks later, my father's Christmas text arrived. I wasn't invited to Christmas Eve because everyone wanted to celebrate Marcus's future wife, the real doctor. A few days later, on December 20th, Rebecca walked into my office holding a folder. Her expression told me something was unusual. "Dr. Thornton," she said, "I think you should look at this." She placed a resume on my desk. It was an application for the new head of pediatric surgery position, a role I had personally created during our hospital's expansion project. The salary ranged from $380,000 to $450,000, along with research funding, excellent benefits, and access to some of the country's most advanced surgical facilities. I looked at the name. Dr. Alexandria Burke. I slowly opened the file. Johns Hopkins Medical School. Pediatric Surgery Fellowship at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. 5 years of surgical experience. Strong research publications. Outstanding recommendations. Rebecca stood quietly. She's one of our top 3 finalists. I nodded as I continued reading. Her personal statement explained how deeply she cared about children's health. She wrote about building an exceptional pediatric surgery program and mentoring young doctors. Everything was professional. Everything was impressive. One thing made me pause. She had absolutely no idea who the hospital's chief medical officer was. That wasn't surprising. I had always preferred staying out of the spotlight. The CEO handled interviews with the media. The public relations department managed publicity. I focused on improving the hospital instead of promoting myself. Alexandria had already passed 3 interview rounds without realizing that the final hiring decision belonged to me. I closed the folder. "Schedule her interview for 10 o'clock on December 26th, I said calmly. "After the other candidates. I want enough time to speak with each finalist." Rebecca looked at me for a second before nodding. "Of course, Doctor." She knew exactly why Christmas would be difficult for me. Christmas Eve was quiet. I stayed home, roasted a small chicken, and spent the evening watching old classic movies. I ignored the social media photos Marcus posted. There was Alexandria smiling beside my parents. Another showed Dad raising a glass during a toast. The caption read, "Finally someone who knows what real success looks like. #family first #proud son." At 9 that evening, I sent Marcus a simple message. "Merry Christmas." He replied almost 3 hours later. "Thanks. Mom and Dad loved meeting Alex." That was all. December 26th arrived with cold winter skies. I dressed the way I always did for executive meetings, a navy business suit, cream blouse, simple earrings, and comfortable heels. My white doctor's coat hung neatly behind my office door. The embroidered name read, Emma Thornton, MD. Chief Medical Officer. The morning interviews went well. Dr. Raymond Chin from Stanford presented outstanding research. Dr. Patricia Nguyen from the Mayo Clinic showed remarkable surgical results and leadership experience. By late afternoon, Rebecca knocked on my door. "Dr. Burke has arrived for her interview." "Give me 5 minutes," I said. "Then bring her in." I reviewed Alexandria's file one last time. Every reference had been verified. Every credential confirmed. Every surgical record carefully reviewed. She truly was an excellent candidate. I closed the folder. A few minutes later I heard footsteps outside my office. Rebecca's voice came first. "Right this way, Dr. Burke." Alexandria sounded cheerful. "This hospital is beautiful. I'm excited about this opportunity." Rebecca smiled. "Our chief medical officer has completely transformed this medical center. I'm looking forward to meeting him," Alexandria replied. Rebecca gently corrected her. "Actually, our chief medical officer is a woman." There was a brief silence. "Oh, of course," Alexandria answered. Moments later, Rebecca knocked. "Dr. Thornton, Dr. Burke is here. Please send her in." The door opened. Alexandria walked inside with a confident smile and her hand already extended. She turned toward me. Everything changed. Her smile disappeared. Confusion crossed her face. Then recognition. Then complete disbelief. "Good afternoon, Dr. Burke," I said warmly. "Please, have a seat." She looked at the nameplate on my desk. Dr. Emma Thornton, Chief Medical Officer. Her eyes moved to the framed diplomas on my wall. Johns Hopkins Medical School. Board certifications. The Forbes 40 Under 40 Award. Recognition from the American Hospital Association. Finally, she looked back at me. "You," she whispered. "You're the Chief Medical Officer." "Yes," I answered calmly. I pointed to the chair across from my desk. "Please sit down. We have an interview to begin." She remained frozen. Her face had turned pale. I had no idea." "I understand." She looked toward the door. "May I have a minute?" "Take the time you need," I replied. "However, I should remind you that, as stated in the interview agreement you signed, this meeting is being recorded for quality and compliance." The color drained from her face. Slowly, she sat down. Her hands shook slightly. I opened her application file. "Whenever you're ready, Dr. Burke," I said, "we'll begin." "Let's begin with your background," I said, opening her file. "You graduated from Johns Hopkins Medical School." "That's where I earned my degree as well." "How was your experience there?" "It was excellent," Alexandria answered softly. I nodded. "After that, you completed your pediatric surgery residency at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. That's one of the country's best training programs. I noticed you worked with Dr. Morrison." "Yes. I served on a national healthcare committee with him a few years ago. He's an outstanding surgeon." I'll be speaking with him personally during the reference check. Her fingers tightened around the handle of her handbag. I'm sure he'll give a strong recommendation. Without reacting, I turned another page. Let's discuss your clinical performance. I studied the report in front of me. Over the past 5 years, you've completed 347 surgeries. Your complication rate is 2.1%. She nodded. Nationally, the average is around 1.8%. Can you explain what quality improvement steps you've taken to lower that number? She looked uncomfortable. My results are still considered acceptable. I met her eyes. We don't aim for acceptable. We expect excellence. At Pacific Regional, our average surgical complication rate is under 1%. Whoever leads our pediatric surgery department must raise the standard, not simply meet it. I made a short note. She finally spoke. Dr. Thornton, could we talk about something else? Such as? She hesitated. Our history. I closed the file for a moment. This interview is about your qualifications. The person selected for this position will earn more than $400,000 a year, receive a generous research budget, and lead an entirely new department. This is one of the most important leadership roles in our hospital. My responsibility is to determine whether you're the best person for that job. She looked down. I continued. You wrote that academic medicine is one of your greatest passions. Tell me about your future research plans. I've been focusing on minimally invasive pediatric surgery. I noticed your publications. You've published 2 papers in the last 3 years. They're respectable. But this position requires someone who regularly contributes to leading journals like JAMA Surgery, the New England Journal of Medicine, and Annals of Surgery. We also expect our department chair to secure research funding, mentor residents and fellows, and help build national recognition. I paused. Have you ever created or managed a fellowship program? Only in a limited role. I wrote another note. This position requires someone who can build a department from the ground up. We need vision, leadership, and the ability to attract top physicians. I closed the folder. So tell me, Dr. Burke. Why are you the right choice? She took a deep breath. I've spent 5 years providing excellent patient care. You've provided solid patient care, I corrected calmly. There's a difference. Our hospital is built around exceptional performance. She became defensive. I've worked at a community hospital. We don't have the same resources as a place like this. I nodded. I understand. However, you're competing against Dr. Raymond Chin from Stanford and Dr. Patricia Nguyen from the Mayo Clinic. Both have complication rates below 1%. Both have published extensively. Both have trained large numbers of surgical residents. Both have proven leadership experience. I leaned back in my chair. So tell me, why should I choose you instead of them? Her patience finally broke. She stood up. This interview isn't fair. It feels personal. Please sit down, Dr. Burke. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. It was the same calm voice I used during difficult board meetings, physician reviews, and department restructures. After a long moment, she slowly sat again. I folded my hands. My personal relationships have no place in this office. You are being evaluated exactly the same way as every other finalist. If you believe the process is unfair, you're free to withdraw your application. I don't want to withdraw. Then answer the question. Why should I hire you? She took a shaky breath. I'm a skilled surgeon. I care deeply about my patients. I want to build something meaningful. So do the other finalists. I opened her file again. Let's discuss leadership. Have you ever supervised more than 2 residents? No. Have you managed a departmental budget? Not directly. Have you recruited surgeons from other hospitals? No. Have you negotiated insurance contracts or planned long-term departmental growth? No. That's usually handled by administration. Here, I replied, department leaders are expected to understand both medicine and management. The head of pediatric surgery is responsible for patient care, staffing, budgets, strategy, and financial performance. It's much more than operating. I looked directly at her. Dr. Burke, you're a capable surgeon. But this role requires far more than strong surgical skills. Your leadership experience is limited. Your research record is modest. You've never managed a department. And during today's interview, you haven't shown me that you're ready to lead one. Her face turned bright red. This is because of Marcus. No. My decision has nothing to do with your relationship with my brother. It's based entirely on the qualifications you've presented today. You just want to punish me. I slowly stood. I apply the same standards to every candidate. And based on today's interview, I don't believe you're the strongest choice. I think we've finished. She quickly stood as well. Please. I really need this opportunity. I know I made a poor first impression at Thanksgiving. This isn't about Thanksgiving. I'm a good doctor. I work hard. I care about children. I just need someone to believe in me. I answered quietly. A hospital at this level doesn't hire people because they might become ready someday. We hire people who have already demonstrated they are ready. She looked desperate. You can't reject me over one family dinner. I can reject any applicant whose qualifications don't match what this position requires. I walked to the door and opened it. Rebecca was already waiting outside. Rebecca, please escort Dr. Burke to the lobby. Our interview has concluded. Rebecca nodded politely. This way, Dr. Burke. Alexandria didn't move for a moment. Tears filled her eyes. Please. Her voice barely came out. I remained calm. You'll receive the committee's final decision by email after all interviews have been completed. She looked at me one last time. When Marcus hears about this, I'm sure he will. I gave a professional nod. Thank you for coming today, Dr. Burke. Goodbye. Rebecca gently guided her toward the elevators. As they walked away, I heard Alexandria's voice echo down the hallway. This isn't fair, she's making it personal. I quietly closed my office door and returned to my desk. My hands were steady as I walked back to my desk, opened my laptop, and began writing an email. Subject, Final Recommendation, Head of Pediatric Surgery. I typed carefully. After interviewing all 3 finalists, I recommend offering the position to Dr. Patricia Okonkwo. She has the strongest combination of surgical skill, leadership experience, research achievements, and long-term vision for our pediatric surgery program. Dr. Raymond Chin is an excellent alternate candidate if Dr. Okonkwo declines. At this time, I do not recommend extending an offer to Dr. Alexandria Burke. While she is a capable surgeon, her leadership experience, research record, and overall qualifications do not meet the requirements for this position. My complete evaluation and interview notes are attached. I will present my recommendation at tomorrow's board meeting. Emma Thornton, MD. Chief Medical Officer. I reviewed the message one last time. Then I pressed send. The decision was made. That evening, my phone started ringing. At 5:47 p.m., Marcus called. I didn't answer. He called again 15 minutes later. Then again. Eventually, he left a voicemail. I played it on speaker. Emma, what did you do? Alexandria came home in tears. She said you ruined her interview because of family issues. If that's true, it's completely unacceptable. Call me back. I deleted the message. A little after 7, Mom called. Emma, she said gently, Alexandria is heartbroken. She thinks you treated her unfairly. I know things were awkward at Thanksgiving, but she's going to be part of our family. Can't you help her? I ended the call without saying a word. A few minutes later, Dad called. This time, I answered. Emma, he said immediately, you need to fix this. Hello, Dad. Don't avoid the subject. Alexandria told us what happened. She said you asked impossible questions and embarrassed her. I asked the same questions every finalist was asked. She's a talented surgeon. She's a competent surgeon, I replied calmly. But this position requires much more than technical skill. Dad sighed. You're rejecting her because she's dating Marcus. No. I'm rejecting her because she doesn't meet the qualifications. There was silence. Finally, he asked, wait, what exactly is your job? I'm the Chief Medical Officer. I thought you worked in administration. I do. I'm also the Chief Medical Officer. I oversee every clinical department in an 847-bed hospital. I supervise thousands of healthcare professionals. I approve executive hiring decisions. Selecting department leaders is one of my responsibilities. I kept my voice calm. Alexandria applied for a position at my hospital. I interviewed her. She wasn't the strongest candidate. That's the entire story. Dad sounded frustrated. But she's going to marry your brother. That doesn't change the hiring standards. I paused before continuing. Maybe she should have been more careful before dismissing administrative medicine as just paperwork and suggesting people like me weren't real doctors. He didn't answer. I continued. Tell me honestly. How much of her confidence came from her qualifications? And how much came from believing personal connections would somehow help her? That's unfair. No. What's unfair is expecting me to lower professional standards simply because someone may become part of the family. I have 2 candidates who are clearly more qualified. I'm hiring one of them. Dad let out a long breath. Your mother and I are disappointed. I looked out the window toward the city skyline. You've been disappointed in me for most of my life. I have a board meeting tomorrow morning. I need to prepare. Good night, Dad. I ended the call. The messages continued throughout the evening. Marcus left several angry voicemails. Mom sent text after text. Some begged me to reconsider. Others accused me of being cold and selfish. Just before 10 o'clock, another call came from an unfamiliar number. I answered. Dr. Thornton. Alexandria's voice shook with emotion. You can't do this. I'm going to file a complaint. With whom? I asked. The board of directors. They review my recommendations every year. The medical board. I conducted a professional interview. Human resources. The interview was recorded, and every finalist was asked the same core questions. I let the silence settle. If you file a complaint, it will be investigated. And the investigation will show that your evaluation was based entirely on your qualifications. She sounded desperate. You're only doing this because you don't like me. I'm doing this because you're not the strongest candidate. If you had clearly been the best applicant, you would have received the offer. But you weren't. Tears filled her voice. I'm a good surgeon. I believe you are. But this position requires an exceptional leader. It isn't the right fit at this point in your career. I spoke as professionally as I could. My advice is simple. Strengthen your research. Take on leadership roles. Improve your clinical results. Gain experience managing larger teams. Then apply again in a few years. She was quiet. Finally, I said, "I sincerely wish you success. Goodbye, Dr. Burke." I ended the call. The next morning, at 9 o'clock, I walked into the executive boardroom. The CEO, CFO, and 12 board members were already seated. The board chair smiled. "Dr. Thornton, please present your recommendation." I connected my laptop to the screen. Each finalist received the same careful review. I summarized their education, leadership experience, research achievements, interview performance, and overall evaluation. "Dr. Raymond Chin is an excellent surgeon," I explained. "He brings strong research credentials and innovative clinical work. He would be a valuable addition to our hospital." I moved to the next slide. Dr. Patricia Okonkwo is the strongest candidate. She combines outstanding surgical outcomes with proven leadership. She has successfully managed large teams, secured research funding, and built respected academic programs. I believe she is the best person to lead our new pediatric surgery department. One board member pointed to the final slide. "And Dr. Burke?" I answered honestly. "She has solid clinical ability. However, her leadership experience is limited. Her research record is still developing. She has not managed a department or large clinical team. Based on our evaluation standards, she is not yet ready for this position." The board members nodded. After a brief discussion, the chair spoke. "I move that we offer the position to Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, with the approved executive compensation package." Every hand in the room was raised. The decision was unanimous. "Dr. Thornton," the chair said, "please contact Dr. Okonkwo today." "I'll do that immediately." Less than an hour later, I called her. "Dr. Okonkwo, this is Dr. Emma Thornton from Pacific Regional Medical Center. I'm pleased to offer you the position of head of pediatric surgery." There was a brief pause. Then she smiled. "I would be honored to accept." For the first time in days, I smiled too. The hospital had found the leader it needed. Our next family dinner was on New Year's Eve. At first, I planned to stay home. Then Mom called. "Please come," she said quietly. "We need to talk as a family." I agreed. The moment I walked through the front door, I could feel the tension. No one smiled. Marcus spoke first. "You ruined Alex's chance to get that job." I calmly took off my coat. "I made a hiring decision based on qualifications. You embarrassed her." I interviewed her exactly the same way I interviewed every other finalist. Dad stepped in. "You could have helped her by giving an executive position to someone who wasn't the best candidate." I shook my head. "I don't work that way." Marcus slammed his hand on the table. "She's going to be part of this family. Then she should have treated me with respect from the beginning." The room fell silent. At Thanksgiving, she dismissed my career as paperwork and made it clear she didn't think I was a real doctor. Mom looked worried. "Can't we just move past this?" "I have no problem with people who respect me," I replied. But Alexandria didn't. She judged me before she knew anything about me. And now she's upset because she discovered that the person she looked down on happened to be the one making the hiring decision. That's not my fault. Marcus pointed at me. "You're doing this out of revenge." I looked directly at him. "Did Alexandria tell you everything?" He frowned. "What do you mean?" "Did she mention her surgical results? Her limited leadership experience? Her small research portfolio? Or did she only tell you that I was unfair?" He didn't answer. I asked her about quality improvement, research goals, and leadership. The same questions every finalist answered. She struggled because she wasn't prepared. This position isn't just about being a good surgeon. It's about leading an entire department. I looked around the table. I've spent years building the reputation of my hospital. I'm not going to risk that by lowering our standards. Mom spoke softly. She's heartbroken. I hope she learns from the experience. That's how professional growth works. Dad's face tightened. You've always been difficult. You've always acted like you were better than everyone else. I smiled sadly. No, Dad. I've simply become very good at what I do. You never cared enough to find out. I picked up my purse. I came because Mum asked. I've said everything I needed to say. I'm leaving. Mom reached toward me. Emma, please stay. I gently shook my head. I've spent years waiting. Waiting to be noticed. Waiting to be respected. I'm finished waiting. I took a slow breath. I'm the chief medical officer of one of the top hospitals in the region. I've helped transform failing hospitals into successful ones. I speak at national medical conferences. I've been recognized by Forbes. My work improves healthcare for thousands of patients every day. And not once has anyone in this family asked me what I actually do. I looked at Marcus. If you're angry, don't be angry with me. Be upset that Alex judged people by their job titles instead of their character. Be upset that she believed connections mattered more than ability. But don't blame me for doing my job honestly. Without another word, I walked outside. Marcus followed me to my car. He looked exhausted. Alex and I might break up because of this. I unlocked my car. No. If your relationship ends, it won't be because of me. It will be because she's embarrassed and needs someone else to blame. If she sees this as a lesson, she'll become stronger. If she doesn't, that's her choice. Marcus stared at me. I can't believe you're my sister. I smiled. And I can't believe it took you 35 years to realize I'm good at my job. I got into my car. Happy New Year, Marcus. Then I drove away. On February 1st, Dr. Patricia Okonkwo joined Pacific Regional as head of pediatric surgery. She exceeded every expectation. Within months, she built an outstanding pediatric surgery program that attracted patients from across the region. Our hospital's surgical outcomes became the best in the state. As for Alexandria, I heard through professional contacts that she stayed at Children's Medical Center. She enrolled in leadership training, became more involved in quality improvement projects, and worked hard to strengthen her career. I was genuinely happy for her. People can grow when they're willing to learn. Marcus and Alexandria ended their relationship a few months later. Mom said they wanted different things in life. I wished them both well. In April, I accepted another promotion. I became Executive Vice President of Clinical Operations for our entire health system. Instead of managing one hospital, I now oversaw 4 hospitals and 23 outpatient clinics. A few months later, Forbes Healthcare published a feature story about our health system's turnaround. The article focused on the leadership team and the changes that transformed struggling hospitals into nationally recognized medical centers. I spent nearly 6 hours being interviewed. When the magazine was published, Dad sent me a message. I saw the Forbes article. I'm proud of you. Can we have lunch? I replied with a place and time. Tuesday. Noon. My office. When he arrived, I watched him quietly take everything in. He noticed my name outside the executive office. He looked at the awards on the wall. He saw the executives, physicians, and staff greeting me with respect. Over lunch, he finally spoke. I honestly didn't know. I had no idea your work was this important. I looked at him. I tried to explain for years. You never listened. He lowered his eyes. I thought administration meant paperwork. It means leadership. It means making decisions that affect thousands of patients. It means helping doctors do their jobs better. It means building hospitals that save more lives. He nodded slowly. I was wrong. Yes. For a while, neither of us spoke. Finally, he asked, "Can we start over?" I smiled gently. We can't erase the past. But we can begin from where we are now. If you want to be part of my life, you need to see me for who I really am. No more comparisons. No more treating my work as less important. I understand. I see you now. I nodded. That's enough to begin. Things didn't change overnight. Real healing never does. Mom slowly became curious about my work. Instead of asking, "How's work?" she began asking real questions. What does a chief medical officer actually do? How do you improve a hospital? What projects are you leading now? Marcus took longer. One evening he called. I'm sorry. For never asking. For never understanding. For acting like your career mattered less than mine. Thank you, I said. A week later we had dinner together. For the first time, he simply listened. I told him about hospital leadership, patient safety, difficult decisions, and what it felt like to rebuild an organization that many people believed couldn't be saved. After hours of talking, he shook his head. I had no idea. I laughed softly. I know. I wasn't a great brother. You were an unaware brother. But you're trying now. And that matters. Our family was never perfect. There were still disagreements. There were still old habits. But things slowly became healthier. I stopped trying to earn approval. I set clear boundaries. I attended family gatherings because I wanted to, not because I felt guilty. And I never apologized for my success again. Whenever someone asked what I did for a living, I answered with confidence. I'm Dr. Emma Thornton. I'm the Chief Medical Officer and Executive Vice President of Clinical Operations for Pacific Regional Health System. I help lead 4 hospitals and 23 clinics. My work helps build systems that improve patient care and save lives. Most people were impressed. Eventually, my family was too. But the opinion that mattered most wasn't theirs. It was mine. For the first time in my life, I looked in the mirror and saw exactly who I was. Not the forgotten daughter. Not the quiet sister. Not the woman people called a paper pusher. I saw a physician, a leader, and someone who had built something meaningful through hard work, integrity, and determination. And that was more than enough.